Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. We are here with the fine folks of the Maritime Aquarium in Norwalk. I'm here with Dave Sigworth, the publicist. I want to first of all thank you for having us at your place. Very much appreciated.
Thanks for coming down.
It's beautiful. For those who may not know, because we are all over Connecticut, talk about the Maritime Aquarium here at Norwalk. What is it?
All right, so we're an aquarium, obviously, but we're a little different than most aquariums. We don't. You won't come here and see the Nile tank and the Amazon tank or the Mississippi River tank. We're really focused on Long Island Sound, where our point is to educate people about the sound, get them to appreciate the sound and the animals that live in the sound, so that when they go home, they'll take some actions that might benefit that habitat and the animals that live within it. So there's about 99% of the animals that you're going to see in the Maritime Aquarium are found in Long Island Sound, either year-round or seasonally.
Let's go back to the aquarium's inception. How was it decided way back when then that something like this was needed here?
Well, obviously there's an older aquarium in Connecticut. There's Mystic Aquarium, as people know. So why does Connecticut, a small state, need two aquariums? Well, Mystic does sort of focus on the big global picture, and the decision was there were like 5 organizations. This is back in like the 1970s, practically. That the building that we're in was a 1860s ironworks factory.
No kidding.
Had a great history to it. I think there was like a sail making business here in the 70s, maybe.
Wow.
Where they made sailboat sails. But by the 1980s or so, I think the building was empty. It was overgrown. It was a huge eyesore here in the South Norwalk neighborhood of Norwalk, which we call Sono, South Norwalk, Sono.
You just can't say the whole thing.
Yeah,
you got to shorten it up and
fun.
be hipster.
Sono, it's fun. It looks cool.
It is. It is.
So they decided, all right, we've got this huge overgrown eyesore here in South Norwalk. What are we going to do? We need to revitalize the neighborhood. So let's turn it into an aquarium with some maritime history, stuff about the oystering and the boating industry, the maritime nautical history in Long Island Sound, and let's use this building and see if that can sort of bring people into South Norwalk and revitalize the neighborhood a little bit. And they decided to take this tack of an aquarium that would be focused on Long Island Sound, not the big global aquarium, but really focus on the animals out there. The Sound is, it's a estuary of national significance according to Congress.
Yeah.
So, but like it's so stressed because I think like 1 in every 10 persons in America lives within 50 miles of Long Island Sound. So this puts all sorts of stresses on the natural environment of the Sound, especially here in the western basin of Long Island Sound, so close to Manhattan. A lot of people think there's nothing but empty beer bottles down in the bottom of the Sound,
Right.
But it's an arm of the ocean, and we see all sorts of animals that come into the Sound and live here or pass through. So it was important to try and stress what's out there, and also then what you can do as someone who lives within that watershed that affects the health of the Sound. And so that's sort of the point of what we're talking about here.
Well, we've had so many people on our shows, like, for example, the Nature Conservancy, and, even as far up as Rhode Island nature type shows where Long Island Sound was connected or important to them and everything that they were doing as far as their, quest to save waterways and stuff like that. Long Island Sound, it's all connected, and Long Island Sound is so important for ecosystems all over the place. It's so key, isn't it?
It's a huge, there's a lot of animals that would come into the Sound to have their babies. So like striped bass, they use like the marshlands, these shallow areas of the Sound, or like a nursery for a lot of the ocean-going fish. They would come into the Sound and have their eggs here, and that's where they would have their formative years here in the shallower waters of the Sound before they go out into the big open ocean waters. So it's important in that way, and also just like you mentioned these other organizations that are worried about it. We just can't save the Sound. We can't worry about what's out in the Sound. We have to worry about what's flowing into the Sound
rivers,
through the watershed. Yeah. And the Sound's watershed is enormous because the Connecticut River, extends all the way up into Canada.
Yeah.
You could live up in Canada and be affecting the health of Long Island Sound by what you're doing on your property. You're over-fertilizing. Your oil from your car is leaking into a creek, which leaks into a stream, into a river, and into the Connecticut River. Next thing you know, it's down here in Long Island Sound.
So one of the first things you see when you walk into the main area, and I noticed this on a sign, nature and people changing Long Island Sound, paraphrasing that, but what does that mean exactly?
It means exactly what we've been talking about. Is like if you go home and put too much fertilizer on your lawn, or if my car has an oil leak, or if I'm not taking care of the septic system in my yard, if my dog is pooping in my yard too much.
I thought that's
all this-
fertilizer.
Well,
yeah.
too much of it though
Yeah.
is a bad thing. So all of that flows into the sound, you know, and you think, okay, well, just like so, I put a little bit too much fertilizer. You know, there's an old Chinese saying that no single drop of water feels responsible for the flood. All right, so maybe you put a little bit too much and I put a little bit too much, but really, what damage is that going to do?
Or if you go back in time and you step on a bug, that changes the course of history.
Exactly.
You know.
So, well, this is a little bit more.
Yeah.
This is more realistic.
A little realistic.
Yeah,
yeah.
there's actually probably some science behind this one. So, but you know, if everyone sends just a little bit too much into the sound, you know, it leads to this process where there's too much algae and this condition called hypoxia, where now you've got low dissolved oxygen, and so now we've all done a little bit to harm the health of the sound. You know, the big issues of waterways. You know, we took care of like the what is called point source pollution, where in the 60s there was a big factory with a big pipe and there was sludge coming
yeah,
out.
you see that in cartoons. Yeah,
Right.
that's
and
disgusting.
that's point source pollution. I could point to it and say that's where it's coming from. It's coming from right there.
They've cleaned that up,
and they've
though.
cleaned that up.
Thank
You know,
goodness.
we've passed
Yeah.
laws to take care of that. Now it's this non-point source pollution where, with all this fertilizer ended up out there, or there's a McDonald's wrapper out there, or well, McDonald's didn't put the wrapper out in the sound.
Right.
Who put it there? I can't point to that person. So now we all have a role. And by getting people to come to the aquarium and seeing these animals, these amazing animals like the seals and the sharks and the sea turtles, that will inspire them to realize, oh, you know what, there's animals out there, I need to be thinking about them.
The animals in here, and also the sound itself, regardless of how much damage you do to the sound, once you stop, can nature start to repair itself?
It will. You know, but one of the problems with the sound is its geology, where it's the geography of it. If you think about it, you know, there's really only two openings into Long Island Sound. There's a slightly larger one out at the east end called the Race off New London,
right.
And then there's another one, a narrow one off, say, like the Throgs Neck Bridge in New York, where there is tidal flow that comes through that, but not very much. Most of the tidal flow comes through the eastern end, and so the western basin of the sound is sort of like the back of the bathtub. Everything just sort
Everything kind of goes
it just
down
sort of
there, yeah.
sloshes back and forth. It's like the whole Vegas thing, you know, what goes in the sound stays in the sound.
Right.
And so it doesn't get that tidal refreshing, which would really benefit it. You know, if the geography was different and we had more refreshing ocean water, especially in the western basin, that would be so much more helpful. But because it's not, that puts more pressure on us to do the good thing.
Is there anything in the sound, and also any critter that you have here that is flat out endangered at this point from the sound?
Sure. Well, we have sturgeon, which is more like we do wander into the watershed a little bit, and so there are some sturgeon here at the aquarium. Those are highly endangered. A lot of the animals, I'm trying to think some off the top of my head. Even horseshoe crabs, which you think are a dime a dozen out here, some of their numbers may be dropping, and the aquarium is participating with a horseshoe crab census that's going on in Long Island Sound. You know, we do beach walks with kids. We have a research vessel where we go out and bring animals up on the boat, and anytime we collect a horseshoe crab, we put one of these little census surveys tags on it and put it back in and see if someone finds one of these now with one of these little census tags. You're supposed to call a number, say where you found it, what condition it was in, and things like that. So there are animal populations that are changing either because of habitat changes, or even like the temperatures in Long Island Sound. You know, there's a big issue with lobsters in Long Island Sound. 20 years ago, there was like a huge lobster industry in Long Island Sound. Now it's dwindled hardly to anything.
Is it because of over?
No, you know, it's more maybe that the Sound's temperature is rising.
Okay.
And lobsters, you know, are we've always been sort of at the southern end of their range, and if the temperatures are rising, that's going to it's too much for them, too warm for them. They'd be dying off. There's other issues. Some people believe that because we were spraying for the West Nile virus. A lot of municipalities were spraying a couple years ago. This is back probably in the 90s when West Nile virus became a concern because of mosquitoes, and so they were spraying storm drain basins and things like that, putting this sort of pesticide in there. And some people believe because of the timing of it, like once, right around the time they were doing that, the lobsters started disappearing. So there's a lot of, you know, is it because of the sound temperature? Is it because of the West Nile spraying? Is it a combination of that and other things? But again, that's a changing population. So winter flounder, also, like you hardly ever find winter flounder in the Sound anymore, which may just be a temperature thing.
Let's we got so much to get to. We'll take a break and come back. What's the website, by the way? For
www.maritimeaquarium.org.
All right, we'll take a break and come back. A lot more to get to with the Maritime Museum Aquarium. And I say museum, aquarium, there's so much here to see, but we will take a break and come back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. We are here at the Maritime Aquarium in Norwalk. Absolutely beautiful facility. Dave Sigworth's the publicist, and he knows everything about everything in this aquarium. All right, now I want you to, we want people to come down here, but before they come down, paint a picture for us. When you come in, talk to us about the tour. What happens when you come in? How does it all start?
Okay, so there is sort of a storyline for our aquarium, the way we are set up here. So you come into what is Newman's Own Hall, which is this big sort of orientation space.
And this was the old Iron Works.
This is part of the old Iron Works factory. There's some orientation things in the back here. I don't know if you can see that, but these little circles, those are light up little kiosks where we quiz you about.
You push the screen, right?
Well, you push the button and it quizzes. It's going to ask you some questions, and it turns out what it's doing is asking you questions about sort of the animals you find in the different galleries.
I'm not
here
good
in
at
town.
tests, though. You know?
Well, there's no penalty if you're going to get it wrong. So you're still allowed to come through. So it sort of sets you up to sort of, here's the things we're going to be talking about as you go through the aquarium. The seals, we have indoor-outdoor exhibit with harbor seals. These are the one of the two primary types of seals you'd find in the Sound in the winter.
They're very social. I think they're so used to people. They pop their heads up right in front of you. They know people.
They're so darn cute.
Yeah.
They've got these dog faces.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So and that's why, and in terms of trying to connect people to our cause and what we're trying to show, that's why we have a seal in our logo. It's just because that's the face that people are going to probably go home with.
How do you not? How can you avoid it? Yeah.
Right. So those are the things. Some of the things you'll do here in the hall, and then you start your aquarium journey. It's very simple. As you get into the first gallery, you're in the Salt Marsh Gallery. You're at the edge of Long Island Sound. And the farther you go into the aquarium, the deeper you're going into Long Island Sound.
Nice.
So
That's a nice job on that.
So, so just like check out the signage that explains, where you are on your journey to the Sound. We do make you take one little sort of dog leg through the watershed, which is where we have river otters and some of the freshwater fish, and then back into the Sound. And the farther you go, the deeper you get.
Yeah, and you go up to sharks. There are sharks.
Up to sharks. We call it our the big everyone calls it the shark tank. It's really like the ocean beyond the Sound, and even that maybe not be quite right, because the animals even that you would find in that exhibit are animals you could find in Long Island Sound,
including the sharks.
There are sharks in Long Island Sound. There's probably at least 4 native species of sharks in the Sound.
Are they like sand sharks? Kind of.
Well, sand shark is kind of a funny name. No one knows exactly what a sand shark is.
So, but when you don't know what you call it, a sand shark.
I think it's a sand shark. So and you look like you're smart. So we have sand tiger sharks, which are the largest of the 4 native species, and they're very good in aquariums. They live well in aquariums, and they have like their teeth are always visible. Some sharks,
that's great.
Their teeth are sort of withdrawn until they bite. But the sand tigers have that pop.
That's picture taking extravaganza right there, isn't it?
And so many people now, of course, have digital phone cam. You see people standing there taking pictures of
They're
the sharks.
all over. That's got to be all over Facebook, right? And social media.
So please post your images when you come through. And then there's some sand tiger sharks, a brown shark, which some people call sandbar sharks, and then there are 2 types of probably dogfish sharks. So those would be your 4 native sharks, but there's other types of sharks that certainly pass through, probably, and especially out of the eastern end of the Sound.
And I'm assuming that none of them are really aggressive per se.
So if you're going to come on a Thursday, Saturday, or Sunday, because we have a dive team, we have a volunteer dive team. They go into the shark tank twice on each of those days. And we have a communication link, so one of the divers can actually talk to you as you're, and then you can ask them questions about, why aren't the sharks tearing you limb from them, and he'll
that would be a bit of a different show for the kids.
It is. Well, it makes good TV, but it's. The point of it is to show them, sharks are not these horrible, bloodthirsty
How
things.
do they act? Are they timid? Do they go right up to the guy? They're curious more than anything.
They at first, almost like any, 99% of the time when you see a bear in the woods, the bear just wants to get away from you. The shark doesn't know what you are.
Thank goodness for that.
Exactly. And you're just some thing in its habitat, so it wants to sort of stay away from you. Eventually, once it realizes you're not a threat, they'll start getting a little close and swim near you. They seem to be more comfortable with you. So not only do we have one diver who's in there who is communicating with the visitors, and then a second diver is there with what we call a little bump stick, and if one gets a little too comfortable and close, they'll sort of nudge them out of the way. But
the sharks are probably not the guys that a seal you can give a little treat to or something. Sharks not so much. Probably not a good idea.
Yeah, try not to feed the shark. We don't want them to associate us with food.
So that's so yeah. But okay, so there, you get your little show with that.
Well, anyway, so let's keep going. So past the sharks, then.
All right, so you're going beyond.
You're going down. Like, so we have a jellyfish exhibit. So we've got several species of local jellies, which are very cool. They're like living lava lamps.
Right, you're looking right through them.
It's a great way to see them and appreciate them without being stung.
Yeah, that's a more of a hazard maybe in Long Island Sound than sharks are for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So the last recorded shark attack in the Sound was in 1961. I'm sure someone got stung by a jellyfish this summer.
Yeah.
So
maybe a lot more than just one.
So, but like a lot of people hate them because they just seem to be like this.
They're pests.
They're like they ruin your day of swimming.
But are they important to the ecosystem of the Sound?
They are important. One of the concerns is that, and this isn't just in the Sound, but oceans everywhere, that the conditions are getting too ripe for jellyfish. Maybe
they're
things
everywhere.
They're starting to become everywhere. But so you may not like them through your experience of swimming, but once you see them through the glass,
they're beautiful. Yeah,
they're very beautiful.
Look at them from a little bit of a distance.
Mesmerizing to watch. And then, so then we're going to keep going, and we're going to take you past the sea turtle exhibit. We have 2 green sea turtles.
Beautiful.
With stuff about sea turtle conservation and things like that. And eventually, you followed your journey. You popped right back out into this room. It's a sort of a subtle slope down, and we bring you right back into where you started. Then you can keep pushing that way. We have a special gallery where we have a shark and ray touch pool. You can touch a live shark, go home bragging you touch sharks. And other things that we brought out from behind the scenes. We were raising, you can't just grow, or you can't go collect jellyfish out of Long Island Sound year round because the adult phase isn't in the Sound in the cold winter months. So we decided, well, we have to grow them. So we were doing that behind the scenes for a long time, but then we realized, why are we doing this where no one can see it? It's very cool.
Yeah.
So we brought some of the stuff out that we used to be doing behind the scenes out into the open so visitors can understand how we operate. And then if you finally go to the far end of our building, we have Connecticut's largest IMAX movie theater. With our movie screen is 6 stories high. It's the largest IMAX screen in Connecticut.
No kidding! Wow,
very cool.
And so, I mean, it doesn't get any better than watching something on an IMAX screen.
It can take you. You think you got close to sharks here, but some of these, the IMAX film format is not only is the largest, but it's like it has the best clarity, image clarity,
Sharp,
and the sound system. So it's just this enormous screen in front of you, and it takes even up your peripheral vision. So you almost sort of get drawn into the movie. Like IMAX calls it an immersive experience. So, and they're always about 40 minutes long. So you might think, oh, my child's not going to sit through a movie. I don't have time to do this while I include an aquarium visit. But because they're about 40 minutes long, that's just enough time to sort of take a break. You get to sit down, and even kids, because the movies are so interesting and the screen is so large that even like the smallest, kind of squirreliest of kids can sit there and take it.
It might be the perfect time because regular movies when you go into the theater might be getting a little bit too long these days. Yeah. This is perfect.
We have all the previews and everything. Yeah, you're there for hours. So the IMAX movies are made just to sort of with the aquarium or museum visitor in mind, not to be too long, but to give you a taste of some amazing experience that you couldn't see anywhere else.
It's educating, but at the same time, it's mesmerizing because your senses are all being wowed by just how beautiful it is.
Yeah. And the sound system, I think it's like ours is like 12,000 watts, so like it rumbles. You really feel like you're in there.
Part of the tour, do you ever go outside at all?
Only the seals are an indoor-outdoor thing. We also have a research vessel where during the week we'll be taking kids out onto the boat. It's a 40-foot trawler where we actually bring animals up onto the boat. There's a touch tank or holding tank on the boat. So, if you think it's interesting to see these animals and try and imagine, I guess these are out in Long Island Sound. But when you're out on our boat and you see it come right up out of the water right in front of you, that's really the connecting experience. Everything from crabs, skates, squid, all sorts of varieties of fish. So all those things can come up right in front of you and connect you more into the Sound.
Is there so much activity on the Sound that a lot of the Sound creatures are almost accustomed to people? And is that not a good thing if that is the case?
I don't know if that's an issue.
No?
I think they're used to.
Because you say they kind of come right up to you and stuff, but they're there. You're actually going to them.
Yeah, we're bringing. We collect water from different. We do this little trawl where we collect plankton. We look at it on the boat from a video microscope. We do like a little mud. We pull things out of mud, and you can find these little crabs and worms and things that live on the bottom. And then like the big trawl where every cruise is a little different. You never know what you're going to bring up there because who knows what you're going to catch.
You mentioned the jellyfish, and it started out sort of behind the scenes. Is there anything else that you're doing behind the scenes that isn't necessarily in the public view? Maybe could be at some point.
Well, It's funny you mention that. We do actually have behind-the-scenes tour once a month. It's usually on the third Saturday of every month before we open. I think the start time is about 8:15 in the morning. We take you behind the scenes. We take you up above the shark tank. We take you into the jellyfish culturing room. We take you into what we call our fish kitchen, where we do all the food prep for all the animals that we have here today, and let you see like how we operate. It's sort of the NSA wouldn't approve of it because we're exposing ourselves. We're just like putting ourselves right out there and letting you see how we do things.
Depending on the time of year it is, I guess it wouldn't matter. Open in the winter too, doesn't matter, right? Everything's going on the same way.
Year round, yeah. We're open every day except Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day. In terms of seasonal changes, about the only thing that changes for us is our boat research vessel. Instead of April through October when we're doing these marine life cruises where we're bringing animals up on the boat, from about December through early April, then we take it becomes sort of a seal watching cruise where we go out at low tides and look for some of the seals. At low tide, rocks and shoals are exposed, and so seals will come up and
they love
and
to
rest.
just plop up on there and sun themselves or whatever.
Which is a great time to go look for them.
Do you ever get involved in any rescue issues? Did people bring them in, or Coast Guard or anything like that?
Well, we get calls. Mystic Marine Life is Aquarium. They're the marine mammal rescue facility for Connecticut. So if we do get calls, there are people down in this end of the state may call us first, and we may go and check it out or stand by until, and if it's decided that yes, this animal may have an issue, then we would call Mystic and have them come and take the animal up to their facility.
Are there ever like traveling exhibitions or exhibits? Are there things that maybe change over the course of time? Maybe something moves in, something moves out. So if you come at a certain time, maybe you take another visit back here at another time, you might see something new or different. Yeah.
There's that. Well, first of all, the IMAX movies change, of course, and then we do have a changing exhibit space. Right now, we have an exhibit in there about the animals of Africa, aquatic animals from Africa. So everyone knows elephants and giraffes and zebras, but no one really knows the aquatic animals of Africa. So we have an exhibit that's sort of tied to that, and because we had this Africa thing going, we learned that we had the chance to have these meerkats brought in.
Wow.
So we have these 6 meerkats.
What do they have to do with an aquarium? You might ask yourself.
We took it sort of like, from the land to the sea. So
good point.
So as we talk about the land in Connecticut down to the sea or to the sound, we decided to sort of do some shifting in the Africa special exhibit to end with. So it's now called Africa from the desert to the sea. So we sort of take you from land to sea, and the meerkats are just so wildly cute anyway. So
how does your staff and you? How do you not get emotionally attached to the things that you care about here?
Oh, they do this.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. The people, especially in the animal husbandry departments who take care of the animals, if there's an illness or even just animals die.
Yeah.
Like you just
like any other living creature.
If you're taking the best care of it in the world, they still are just going to pass away. So it definitely affects them. It can hit them pretty hard sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it becomes you're a member of your family if you're working with them every day.
Yeah, or just a pet. You've taken care of this animal for a long time, and then it's time for it to go. Even like so we have an octopus. We have it's not a native. It's one of the different animals that it's not native. One of those 1%.
Right.
And I know that octopus don't live that long.
Right.
And so when it's time to go, it's a very
it's
sad
very
thing.
exotic too to see it.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the Seafood Watch because. We're going to transition to food as we wrap up the show.
Okay.
So talk about that.
Well, so you could come through here and you could go, all right, well, that stuff was all interesting. I got to see sharks and I saw fish and I touched a crab and I'm going to go home and think about nothing else now. But what we want you to do is connect to those animals. We want you to realize that we have a huge, that seafood, and especially in New England, has a huge cultural importance, a historic importance to us.
And economic importance.
Economic importance.
Yeah.
So if you go into the State House in Massachusetts, there's a golden cod hanging from the ceiling in the Massachusetts State House. These fish have been important to us. And we're overfishing them. We're either ruining their habitat or we're catching too much of them faster than they can reproduce. So we have issues with some of the seafood out there. We want you to eat seafood. I love eating seafood, but we want you to do it in a sustainable way. And so the aquarium has partnered with the Monterey Bay Aquarium in this program called seafoodwatch.org. So you can look that up online, seafoodwatch.org, and see they update this about every 6 months. The animals or the seafood that are good choices for you when you go to markets or restaurants, or alternatives. Maybe you should think about this instead of that, or also fish to avoid, seafoods type that you should avoid because of either habitat, the way that they are caught is not good for the habitat, or just they're being over caught. And so this is our way to connect you. So not just like when you see the pollock and the cod and the things in the building here, think about how important they were to us as a young nation and as they are today, and how we're sort of now exploiting them. We're taking them out of the ocean much faster than they can reproduce.
One more time on the website for people to go and learn more.
www.maritimeaquarium.org.
Dave Sigworth, the publicist for the Maritime Aquarium at Norwalk. This is an absolutely amazing place. Please get down here and get a chance. We didn't even get a chance to talk about things like memberships and stuff like that, but go to the website and you can learn more. Thank you for having us in your place today. Very much appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of For the Record. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. I'm Sean Murphy. We will see you next time. Take care.